Arthur e la mia vita fa schifo. Non ha sempre fatto schifo. Fino a qualche tempo fa avevo una ragazza, un lavoro, delle prospettive. E poi niente, sono anche un serial killer. Ma avevo deciso di smettere, dico sul serio. Poi una sera vado a trovare Zed alla casa di riposo per presentargli Cordelia. Ah, a proposito, Zed è questo qui. E per chi ancora non lo sapesse, è Zodiac, il killer dello Zodiaco. Figo, eh? Comunque, io credevo ormai che fosse un vecchio rincoglionito. Poi lui ha deciso che si era rotto di continuare a guardare la signora in giallo nella sala comune e ha ucciso Cordelia. Poi siamo scappati. Ah no, un momento. Prima ha ucciso anche Pugsley, il mio cane, che in realtà era il cane della signora Uber. Questo è il braccio della signora Uber. Lei l'ho uccisa io.
Arthur season 2 specifically, I should say, is an offbeat, colorful, dark comedy that explores the pathos of serial killers and the lengths through which one will go to in order to fill an urge, reach a loved one, solve a case. These characters all want with such vigor and such desperation and ferocity. And it's through that desperate want that a lot of the humor rises up to the surface as well, because they get caught up in what they want and kind of lost in it. Even though this is season 2, it's a very clear-cut story, and the context of it all is very well put together by the storyteller, especially in how they divide up the episodes. The pacing is very well done, and it is very well shot. The Italian landscape is beautifully displayed, and the kind of urban grunge feel is certainly achieved as well. It's overall a really top quality season of television that was enjoyable to get to experience.
Since I never saw the first season, the drive-through, literally, of the events of the first season was such an excellent way to catch me up to speed, pun intended, with all the highlights and got me aligned with the tone of the show, with that sardonic, matter-of-fact way of describing quite tumultuous series of events, and it added that beautiful layer of humor to the brutality essentially present in the show. And I like that it's the main character checks in with us directly to the audience as if we're a confidant, and it almost holds the viewer accountable as this continues. And I felt a little bad because I loved seeing them at their work. I loved seeing how they were going to escape through situations and how they were going to get away from being caught, even though there's violence and brutality that results from that. So I think that checking in from the main character is a way to keep us implicated and keeps it almost like a little bit of a guilty pleasure. I really love the ability of the series to dive deep into some pretty dark and raw places, but flip at the turn of a dime, if that's a phrase, into that humor and the mundaneness also of life amidst all of this. They held the tension so tightly throughout, and I loved those interrogation scenes because they just felt so like classic interrogation scenes, cat and mouse sort of thing. And there was so much fun in seeing them circumvent the system and continue on their spree. So much anticipation throughout, and I thought it was really sleekly, impressively done.
Very interesting premise. I'm glad we got the recap at the beginning there, because I'm picking up in season 2 here, but I was up to speed pretty well on everything that was going on here. But yeah, interesting dynamics. It was this Arthur, who seems like a normal, nice guy. He's a serial killer, and he has a really great girlfriend who happens to be a detective and all this. And then meets this older guy who happens to be the Zodiac killer, and then he turns out to be his father. There's just like all these revelations and things, there's lots of twists and turns. And it was really interesting, especially in the beginning of the show here, where the guys are on the run, the 3 guys together, and they kind of have this witty repartee together. But yeah, it was interesting to see how there was power shifting throughout in relationships. There's kind of a family dynamic established, and it crumbles, and everything with Arthur here ends in violence. Because that's his nature. But and I love the way it all wrapped up. Everybody, the performances were great. Everybody did a great job. It was very nicely produced. The script was good editing. It was well shot. They did a good job of putting all this together. This was a lot of work, to put together this series like this, and everything was executed very well. So I hope things go well for Arthur in seasons 1 and 2, and if there's anything beyond. Because everybody did a great job.
Very well done. Horror comedy, I think, is the genre. Although not my cup of tea, because I am not really good when I see gore. I thought the acting was absolutely amazing. The characters were so well developed. Even though it's something that I tend to pull away from on screen, I found myself curious about the context that they found themselves in, how they would get themselves out of a bind, the different characters that were so well defined in such a short amount of time. And I found that the suspense of it was really great. At the end of each small, short episode, I was like, wait, what? What happens next? I need to find out. So I thought that worked really well in it.
A fun time, and I love the fact that I got all 10 episodes in one, and I didn't have to sit and wait or anticipate what was going to happen next. I got my full fleshed out story, and it was great because it didn't read as a movie per se. Like, each episode kind of told its own individual story and had its own movement forward in telling the story, but it wasn't like this prolonged thing where it kind of just gets stuck as a movie. So with each episode ending, you still had the kind of cliffhanger and the anticipation to see what's going to happen in the next few seconds when the next episode started. But I really like the fact that each character was so fleshed out. They all had their own purpose. It wasn't or there weren't any characters that didn't really serve a purpose or who were just kind of there to be a comic relief or anything. Everyone did have their own motives and they had their own angle. So it was interesting to kind of see how everyone was going to move forward into that. And then, the production itself was just really great and professional. It really did feel like something I would watch on TV, except with really, really short episodes. But it was just really well done. The editing was amazing. There were so many great details with the hair and makeup, just the set designs, just finding locations and everything too. Everything was just so professionally done that I was honestly just really in awe of watching that. And seeing how everything kind of unfolded. So I really, really enjoyed this, and really great job to the whole team. It was
very captivating from the get-go, just from the title and even the first few minutes in the beginning. It definitely reminded me, I haven't seen it, but just knowing the aesthetics, it reminded me of Dexter. It was very good at keeping you in the action. It planted a lot of seeds, and eventually all the seeds, like the questions, were answered by the end of it, and I found myself just glued to the screen, which is a really good job. So I thoroughly enjoyed this series.
This is my introduction to this series. I never saw the first season. So what I like especially is at the beginning it offers a really great recap of everything that happened in the previous season. So I felt like everything I needed to know I had going into the show. Definitely my favorite part of the show is Arthur himself. He's such a well-acted character, but he's also such a well-realized protagonist. He not only has a clear motivation and a fun cast of characters in his life that he can bounce off of, but he also has a really interesting moral code that is really consistent and really believable. Definitely comparable to something like Dexter or Barry, where he's not a good person, but you can definitely still root for him, and you hope that at the end of the day he'll get through this entire show alive. the cast around him was also fantastic. I loved his ex-girlfriend. She was such a fun character, and I think that they're perfect for each other narratively. But yeah, overall it was fantastic. If they do a season 3, I'm definitely going to be looking out for it, because I had so much fun with this show, and I'm glad I got to binge it all in one day.
What a fun, really fun, very dark comedy that was. Yeah, I liked the all of it. It was just a lot of fun. And I found that it really rode the line well of dark comedy, because it could have easily, if the characters were a little bit more, took themselves a bit more seriously, or it didn't go so much into the absurd, which is the property of comedy, it could have almost been like a serious psychological thriller drama kind of thing. So good job on that, on making it in a world that is almost real, but just skewed enough into the absurd to make it fun kind of comedy that had a lot of good gags throughout. The pacing was good. It moved really well. I imagine it's a web series because they're very short episodes. So I thought that was crafted well. The way that each capsule sort of was self-contained and left us with a desire to watch the next one. I binged the whole thing in one sitting and was really looking forward to seeing what kind of twist would come at the end, and I was not disappointed. I like the way that it all kind of gets wrapped up in the end and sends us off in a world that makes us believe that there will be a season 3, and looking forward to seeing where these characters go. I probably won't get a chance to see the next season, but who knows? It was a great way to spend a snowstormy afternoon and evening, and had a great time. So yeah, go Arthur, my new favorite serial killer.